Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Luke from Guild Umbra. In this video, I was just wanting to give you guys an update with how things were going with the Esper. I'm gonna be maining a DPS Esper. Of course, I'll be having a healing set, and I have done some healing. But this is mainly going to be a build. I believe I'm going to run. I'm still playing with it though, still testing it. But it seems to be the most optimal without causing any damage or issues in my party. In the past, I had been running Haunt, and I've been tiering it up to pass the tier 4 upgrade. And I still think it's a good spell, but it makes my priority / rotation feel kind of, I don't know, not as fluid, for lack of a better word. And the other side of it was the pushback. I was running with not a heavy melee, but like 2 guys in my party were melee, and it was causing a problem. You know, and I was hesitant to take it off because I liked the magic debuff it gave me, meaning that my other spells and other people's spells on those targets, that I had the debuff of Haunt on, it caused, you know, us to do more damage, the magic dealers or whatever. But I decided to switch it out, and I switched it out for illusionary blades. Now, a couple people might disagree with this build, and that's perfectly fine. I've been running this in Avengers here lately, and I've been pulling pretty damn good DPS. And I'd like to think the guys in my party are excellent players. In fact, I know they are. And so, you know, it says a lot. Before, when I was running Haunt, I was getting significantly less DPS because I was sort of struggling with the rotation / priority. But anyway, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Of course, telekinetic strike. I tiered it up all the way to tier 8. You know, to get the side charge stack going. That can be kind of hard for, you know, for people to manage sometimes. Due to the fact that, you know, sometimes they might be at 4 on their 4th, or excuse me, sometimes they might be at 4 stacks of their side points, and, you know, on the 4th time they cast telekinetic strike, it gives them 2 and they only get 1, so it kind of clips, you know, the ability a little bit. But I enjoy it actually, to be able to get that 5-point mind burst off quicker and get that critical hit chance buff that I got from my tier 8. I probably should have said that this is going to be a more advanced Esper mechanics video. You know, I'm not going to go into it too lengthy on discussions, but I feel like I should share this with people who are playing the Esper. You know, there's been probably 1 or 2 Espers that have done more DPS than me. And I think a lot of it has to do with them being better at the rotation / priority than me, which is very possible. You know, but I've, for the most part, beat out a lot of Espers with this build. So anyway, moving on, I talked about telekinetic strike, I talked about mind burst, and I didn't talk about concentrated blades. I still keep it on my bar, and you'll understand that why. I kept it on the bar when I talk a little bit about the priorities toward the end of the video. Again, I substituted Haunt out for illusionary blades, and I tiered it up to reduce its cooldown a little bit and, you know, produce more damage, because it does do a shit ton of damage. You know, especially if you have the time pre-pull to get it off, you know, without pulling thread, of course. Next, in the amps, I basically followed the same type of amp builds that I did in other ones, with the exception of taking Spectral Swarm out. I just don't like Spectral Swarm right now. I think it has a chance of making it on my bar. Simply from, I like the tier 8. It's just too far up the tree to, take points out of other places to get a tier 8 out of it, And I don't like the global cooldown that I use as a fact, from trying to use the ability. So, for those who don't know, global cooldown is one of those things where if you have a spell that's on global cooldown, you cannot cast anything until that second or however long it takes, for that cooldown to refresh. I don't know if that makes sense, but I look at it as a DPS loss. If I'm, for example, with Illusionary Blades, it also has a global cooldown. So I have to be careful about using this ability and not being able to have concentrated blades or bolsters charges available directly after. So anyway, I think I covered those. And I jumped too far ahead, of course. I'm kind of tired, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get this video in. It's been a while since I've done one, and I wanted to get one out there. But anyway, I talked about the amps way too fast. But there's really not anything else that I didn't pick up. I don't feel Superiority is a good ability amp to choose, because I'll be honest, I mean, I'm not that uber awesome to where I'm at 100% health all the time. I mean, there's going to be times where boss mechanics drop me below that threshold, so, it's not something I feel is, I'm gonna get a lot of use out of, okay? But everything else, I mean, True Sight, I don't have to focus as much on Strike Through anymore. I can just pump almost all my stat priorities into Moxie, and I don't have to worry about it. So that's a very important amp. True Sight is. Follow Through, assault power is increased by 10.5% for 5 seconds after landing an assault finisher, which in this build is our Mind Burst. The power, landing a critical hit increases your Moxie by 16% for 3 seconds. Wreckful, landing a 5 side point assault finisher grants some power, which increases your critical hit severity by 18% for 5 seconds. So these are just like bread and butter amps. I think everybody will kind of agree with me there. I just don't see myself shying away from these amps in my build. But anyway, no pain, no gain. I still think that's a amp you want to grab. Same thing with Tactician. Now the cool thing about this is, if I have extra dash charges, if I dash and then throw my Mind Burst, I do more damage. Now you might not think that's worth it, but I've seen somewhat of a difference in my damage overall by doing that. But I don't suggest doing it, of course, if you have 1 dash charge instead of 2. I'd save my dash charges because it's just one of those things that if you can't dash out of a boss's telegraph in vet, you're probably gonna die because you have toilet tissue for armor, and it just doesn't do any mitigation at all. So keep that in mind. Bingos, it's still good. I still think it's great, actually. Especially stacking with the tier 8 of Telekinetic Strike. It has the ability to get you up there quickly in your side points, which is what we want. Regardless of the fact that it was nerfed and it's at 20% now instead of a 33%. And of course, this is going to be one of those things where you might clip off a few, I call it clip, side points, you know, because you're either at max and you accidentally cast another telekinetic strike, and you don't want to stop your cast because then you have a global cooldown before you can get off your mind burst. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you might overcharge, for lack of a better word, your side points. So, anyway, that's the basic cookie cutter. The build I'm running at this point. So in my amp trees. What else? Let's see. What have we missed? Utility. Again, you can switch these around. I just chose to go with Crush and Incapacitate because they're my two most reliable CCs at this point. And you know, I put in Projected Spirit because there are boss mechanics, and it's just all around useful. I've healed tanks with this and kept them alive because for whatever reason the healer was out of mana or you know, AFK or what have you, and we've, you know, lived. So that's provided you can land it, of course, but can be difficult to land on a target. So. But okay, let's talk about priority and rotation, okay? And we talked about spells that were on the global cooldown, and that is Telekinetic Strike in this build, and Haunt, or excuse me, Illusionary Blades, I keep saying Haunt. Old habits die hard. So let me talk about what I do pre-pull. Typically I run up, I pop 2 Concentrated Blades, I start to charge my Illusionary Blades, and by this time usually the tank's already got enough threat, you shouldn't pull off. I charge my Illusionary Blades up to charge 3, which gives me 2 side points. When my blades hit, I get 2 more side points, and then I do a Telekinetic Strike, and then Mind Burst. Directly after my Mind Burst, I pop my Bolster, 2 charges, and my Innate at the same time. Get another 5-point Mind Burst off, and then from there my priority shifts to, if I'm having to move, I use Illusionary Blades, and after every Mind Burst, 5-point of course, I use my Concentrated Blades or my Bolster to build side points quicker. And that's basically it. You know, as far as the DPS priority rotation. Again, where I ran into some trouble sometimes is that I wasn't focused on how many side points I had, so I would be like spamming Telekinetic Strike at 5 side points, and then there was even times where I didn't even get off my Mind Burst, and I popped my Innate, and therefore I lost more side points. For those who don't know, your Innate, it gives you a shield, okay, and it produces 1 side point, I think, every second for 5 seconds. Okay, so it's very important to get the most meat out of your Innate, to make sure that you're not maxed on your side points before popping it. And that's my reasoning for using it directly after a Mind Burst, because that guarantees me that I won't waste the points. Okay. And something too, it gets a little crazy in the rotation / priority a little bit later after those, okay? And that was the priority I was talking about. Once that priority ends, it's kind of like you have to learn when's a good time to use my Innate. Do I use it on cooldown? How much health does this target have? Should I pop it and then he's going to die in the next second, so I only get 1 side point, and now my cooldown is up on my Innate? These are things you need to learn before you go into adventures. That way you're maximizing the DPS that you're doing, and you're giving the most contribution to your your mates, whoever you're running with, my guild mates, or friends, pugs, whatever. You need to learn these things prior, and to me the best place to learn these things are right there in the Ilium for the Dominion. I'm not sure about the what the name of the city is for the exiles right now. Sorry guys, I'm a Dominion guy. But the best place is to go to those dummies and practice it. Practice moving and using spells. Just change it up a little bit so you're not so static, because obviously you're not going to be static all the time. There's too many boss mechanics in WildStar right now that make the Esper move. And if you're not moving, you're dying. Okay? So you have to know, like, one thing I struggle with, I'll be honest, is I would panic when a telegraph was coming, and I would dodge out, or I would do something stupid, like not use abilities on the move. Now, I've gotten better at it, but there's obviously room for improvement for me. So I know, other people might be struggling with the same thing. So again, if you're looking at spells you can use on the move, you're looking at concentrated blades, you're looking at illusionary blades, and you're looking at bolster. The only spell that you have to sit still for, well actually two, is these two, telekinetic strike and mind burst. Okay? So in a perfect world, we'd be able to sit still and do that priority perfectly, with no trouble, at least the first, 2 5-point mind bursts, and have no trouble at all. But in WildStar, things are very rarely perfect and happen as you want them to. It might be that you don't land 2 concentrated blades on your target. You might land 1. Well, then you have to, on the fly, realize that if you follow my priority, at least pre-pull, you might have to do 2 more. 2 more telekinetic strikes to get to your 5-point mind burst. Or maybe both your blades hit and your illusionary blades hit, and you've already maxed, so you waste 1 side point by casting telekinetic strike, but you don't know that. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that bingo is so hard to predict. Okay? Among other things, like the tier 8. It's kind of hard to predict that tier 8. That after 3 stacks on the 4th cast, you get an extra side point. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not counting in my head while I'm doing this. I'm more concerned about staying alive, doing the most optimal DPS. Is my tank dying? Maybe I can target him and throw bolster on him. Or, try to land a projected spirit on him. All these things come into play. And everybody has their bad days. So, anyway, again, I want to thank you guys for watching my videos. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on YouTube. And I appreciate all the viewers as well on my Twitch. Again, I'm going to continue to try to stream these type of videos, at least until I can upgrade my internet or move or something to get better internet. It just sucks that I can't stream in game. As much as I would love to do that and do commentary on it, I absolutely refuse to stream crappy, quality videos. So it's just one of those things. Maybe at some point I'll be able to do that. But until then, we're gonna have to stick with this kind of format. Again, I want to thank you guys from YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to me, what the hell's wrong with you? Subscribe, man. Follow me on Twitch. My name on Twitch is Big Dog LB. Don't ask, I won't tell you. It's just a nickname I grew up with. But again, you YouTube users, if you see something that maybe I'm missing, give me some comments, give me some feedback. I'm more than willing to listen to a valid argument, but I will not waste my time looking at trolls or people just want to be douchebags. Okay, um, you know, I'd like to think I'm a pretty talented Esper, but I feel like there's always room for me to grow, and I don't get that by just staying at my box and not listening to anyone else. So anyway, that's my soapbox. Again, this is Luke from Guild Umbra, signing off. Thank you guys. See you next time. Have a good night.